Hello, welcome to our midweek message. I'm Chris. I'm the team rector here in the Golden Cap Benefice. Thanks for joining us today. I've been following a story in the news these last few weeks that involves the game of chess. I wonder if you've seen it too. It centres around the talented chess player Hans Niemann, who's been accused by some of his rivals of cheating when he's been playing against them. It's alleged that somehow he had access to a chess computer, perhaps through some kind of electronic device, that enabled him to counter very effectively his opponent's move and win some money playing chess. Computers, of course, are much more superior at chess than human beings are by virtue of the way they have so much more capacity to calculate and sift the range of possible moves and outcomes. So an investigation was taking place into Hans Niemann, and what it did was it compared his moves to those suggested by a chess computer. And overall, it concluded that he had likely cheated in more than 100 online chess games, including several high prize money events. I don't know if you play chess, but at first sight, it's a very simple game. Once you know what piece is allowed to move in what direction, and once you know what the object of the game is, which is to take your opponent's king by forcing it into a position where no further legal moves are possible, what we call checkmate. But the more you play it, the more you realize that chess is not a simple game at all. It's highly strategic, and there are complex game plans and strategies with players wrestling with each other to gain control of the board and take their opponent's king. Games can go on for hours and hours. When my brother-in-law visits, we often get the chess set out and play chess against one another, which is usually good because he's probably about the same standard as me, so we have some good tussles. And I used to play chess as well with my eldest brother Roger when we go away for weekends together. And one time we took the chess set to the pub with us, and we became absorbed in a game that had lasted by that point at least 2 hours, until one of us noticed that the other one was actually in check and had been for about the last 20 minutes. So we tried to unravel our moves to get back to the place where we were when the king was placed in check, so that the game could continue properly from that point. But we weren't able to unravel the game properly. So we had to stop and start a whole new game. And the moral of that story is don't play chess and drink beer at the same time. But all this talk of chess in the news has been reminding me of one of my favourite poems, a delightful poem called Tripping Over Joy by the 14th century Persian poet called Hafiz. And in it, I'll read it to you in a second, and in it he says that those who properly understand the spiritual life know that the spiritual path is like a sublime game of chess with God. But the poem takes a beautiful and surprising twist, which is wonderful. Let me read it to you. I hope it blesses you today. This is Tripping Over Joy. It's a short poem. What is the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made such a fantastic move that the saint is now continually tripping over joy and bursting out in laughter and saying, "I surrender." Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves. Such a delightful poem, and one that reminds me of the truth to be realized about the spiritual path that we walk with God is that actually it's all about God. It's all about God's love, God's grace, God's faithfulness, God's forgiveness. And it's not about us at all, not about our piety, our prayerfulness, our faithfulness, our righteousness. It's God's gracious move that has triumphed over any hope of defense or strategy of our own. And the poem says that joy comes from accepting that glorious truth, receiving it, surrendering to it, living in the gift of it, and not trying to gain control of the board from God by 1,000 serious moves of our own. It's one of my favourite poems, Tripping Over Joy, and I hope it causes you to trip over joy today and to fall back into the everlasting arms of the God whose grace is always enough for us. God bless you today. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.